Okay. So in the last session, we were discussing about the setter method and action method, right? Right. Now, let me just go back to the example that we did in the last session. Give me a moment. Let me log into this. Okay. So this is the page that we created in the last session. Right? And this is where we have used the setter method, right? Now, what we are going to do is we are basically, going to put the keyword here, click on this button, and it actually helps us search for the records which meet the criteria, right? So if I come back to the code, the controller class, um, we have used the getter methods, we have used a setter method and an action method which is performing the search. So in the action method, we are actually executing this query, all right? And this is an Soql query, right? Currently, we are working with Soql. Now, on the same example, we are going to use an SOSL query. What is SOSL? SOSL is basically Salesforce Object Search Language. Like SOQL is Salesforce Object Query Language. SOSL is Salesforce Object Search Language. Okay, it's another way of doing a query, and like SOQL uses a select statement. SOQL uses a select statement, right? Select name type. SOSL does not use a select statement, it uses a find statement. Okay. So the syntax for SOSL is slightly different. It can actually find a keyword in all fields returning account name type industry. Alright, so this is how SOSL is written. Now good thing about SOSL is that it will allow you to search for the keyword in all the fields as compared to what we were doing here. Here I had to specify that search match the keyword with the industry. Alright, but SOSL can perform a search in all the fields. So it will search for the keyword in the name, city, address. Alright, and if it finds that keyword anywhere, it's going to return you the result. Alright, so if you want to perform that kind of a search, then you can use SOSL query. This entire code will be same. You don't have to change anything. Only thing that we have to change is the query. Instead of SOQL query, we'll write an SOSL query. Alright, rest everything remains same. So let me just go back and create another page. I'm going to create another page. I'll copy the code from here, from this class, and I'll just make the changes in the query because the remainder of the code remains same. So let me just quickly copy it. Okay, I'll change the name of the class. I'm calling it C6 here. Uh, Everything else looks to be fine. I have to change the query to SOSL. Okay, so this is the syntax. Find keyword. Here you have to specify what your query is going to return. You have to assign the list of accounts here, and then you have to write the query. Okay, find keyword in all fields, returning account name, type, industry. So the class is ready. Now I'm going to create a Visualforce page and call this class there. Visualforce page can also be copied actually, because we have almost got the same thing. So let me try and copy the Visualforce page also. You can copy the complete code from the previous page. All that we need to do is we need to change the name of the controller. Instead of C5, now we have a C6 as controller. Right. Okay, similar kind of a UI. You put a keyword here, click on search, searches for the result. Alright, now put another keyword here, United, search for this. Now do you notice this? There are a few results where there is no word United, like this record. Why is it showing this one in the result? Why is it showing this record in the result? Why do you think these results are being displayed? I've searched for keyword United. Alright. Why is it showing these results in the these results? because my SOSL query is performing a search in all the fields. Alright, this is what your SOSL can do. It can actually perform a search. When we usually do a search, we want to fetch records where that particular keyword has appeared anywhere. It can be the name, it can be the street, city. Okay, so it is actually performing that kind of a search. It's searching in all the fields, and the word United might have appeared in some other field. Okay. Street. Okay. Now you will understand, why we are getting the results. See, for these records, word United has appeared in the billing country. Okay. For some results, it is appearing in the billing street. Right. For some records, it's appearing in the name. It is. So this is how a search can work. Okay. Now, what if I just want the search to work on the name field? Now it's searching in all the fields and it's returning all the results. I don't want this. I just want the records where the keyword appears in the name. I just want those results to be returned. Then you just have to make a small change in the query. Okay. Instead of all fields, you can say search in name fields. That's it. Save it. Okay. Earlier we had written in all fields. Now we are writing in name fields, and we are gonna search the same keyword now. Now it only returns the results where now it only returns the results where you have the keyword in the name field. Alright, so that's something which we can do. So that's what we can control, whether we want to return the results searching in all the fields, or we just want to return the results using the name field. Alright. Okay. So that's how we use SOSL. Right. Now we are going to talk about another type of controller, which is called a controller extension. Okay, what is a controller extension? Controller extension is an add-on controller for a visual force page. So let's say this is a visual force page. Okay, and this page is using a controller. Okay, there is a controller, all the logics are written on this, and this page is using this. Okay, I want to add a few more logics into the page, but I do not want to make changes in this controller. Then what you can do, you can create one more controller and call it as an extension. So this will be the controller and this will be the extension. Okay, so this page now can call the logics from the controller and extension both. Okay, so far we have been working with the primary controller for the page. A page can have just one primary controller. It can be either a standard or a custom. In addition to the primary controller, it can have extension as well. Okay, so this is something which will be very commonly used with standard controller pages. So, when we were working with the standard controller page, we saw that we do not have an option of writing our own logics. Did we have the option to write your own, to write our own logics? No. Standard controller was where we were using the default Salesforce.com logics. Now, in case I want to use a standard controller on the page, and along with that standard controller, I want to use my own logics, then I'll use a controller extension. Alright, simple. So let's go back to one of the standard controller pages that we created and we call an extension there. I think the initial pages that we did, we can call an extension of those. Okay. This is a standard. This is a page which is using a standard controller, right? You see, it's using a standard controller. Now, on this page, I want to use a custom logic. I want to call it custom functionality. Okay. So for that, I need to use a custom, and for that I need to create a controller and call that as an extension. Okay, I cannot call a custom controller on this page because it is already using the standard controller, but I can definitely create a class and call that as an extension here. All right. So first of all, let's create a class. Okay, let me define a page reference method here. Okay. All right. So this is a method that I have. I just defined a page reference method. I'm just keeping it very simple. In the class, we just have one method which is actually going to take me to VF7, to another Visual Force page. Okay. Now I want to call this method on this page, which is already using a standard controller. Okay. Now to call this method, I'll have to call this class. I cannot call this class as a custom controller because this page is already using a standard controller. So I'm going to call it as an extension. This time I'll be calling it as an extension. All right. How do you do that? call it as extensions equals E1. Okay, name of the class E1. Okay, that is it. Now, when you try to call a class as an extension, so defining the class is pretty similar. Okay, defining the class is going to be pretty similar to a normal controller. There is just one small thing that you have to do. You have to define a constructor here, public E1 text pages dot standard controller. This needs to be defined. That's it. Okay. If you do not define this, it will not take that as an extension. Try to save it here. See, it will say that the constructor is not there, it's missing. Okay, we have to define this line of code. Now what are we doing here? We are just trying to instruct this class to work with another class, which is the standard controller of the page. See, basically what is going to happen, try and understand the logic first. Why are we writing this? There is a page. Okay, this page is going to take its logics from one controller only. There has to be one source from where it gets its logics, right? Yes, it should get its logics from one particular source, right? Now what I am doing here, I am actually assigning two controllers to this. I say there is this extension, you have to work with this, and there is a controller that you have to work with. All right. Now, while we do this kind of setup, what we need to do, we need to instruct these two things to work with each other. So in the extension, obviously in standard controller, I cannot write anything. In the extension, I am actually defining a constructor method to give the location of the other controller, other set of logics that it has to work with. That's all. Okay. So you just need to write apex pages.standard controller. Okay. So I am passing this other controller as a parameter to this particular class. Alright, now this class is going to work with along with this. It's going to get associated with this and work along with this. That is it. Now you save it. Okay. So now I have called the extension, so I should be able to call this method called go to v7. Okay, there's an action method. I can call it on the command button. Already have a form tag. Save it. All right. So now this is the method that I'm calling from the extension. I click on this, it should take me to the other Visual Force page. See, it takes you to VF7. Okay, that's it. So this way you can write any method inside this custom controller extension class, and you can call them. Now, though it was a standard controller page, but still I was able to call the custom method because I am calling them through an extension. Alright, so this extension can be very useful if you want some custom methods to be used on your Visual Force page which is already using a standard controller, then you can always use an extension. Okay. Apart from this, extension can also be used with the custom controller pages. Okay. So your extensions can be used with both standard as well as custom controller. Your extensions can be used with both standard as well as custom controller. Alright. So in case you are going to call an extension on a custom controller page, then everything remains same, just that this constructor that you define here, instead of apex page.standard controller, you will have to specify the name of the controller that you want to connect it with. Let me create another extension that I'm going to use with a custom controller page. Public class to okay, this time let me put some, okay, let me put a string hello. Okay, now this is the method that I've defined in the extension. I need to call it on a custom controller. Right, so let me look for page which is using a custom controller. Okay, this is using a custom controller C2, right? Okay, now if you want to call the extension here, you have to define the constructor, and in the constructor you'll have to connect it with C2. Public C2 that's okay. So now we are actually connecting it to an instance of C2. Got it? For standard controller, you just need to write apex pages.standard controller. It's automatically going to pick the standard controller from the page. For a custom controller, you need to write the name of the class that your page is using. Okay. Now save this. Now I can call it on this page as an extension. Extensions. Okay. Now I've called the extension. I should be able to call the method here. Save. Yeah, it's a get method. It returns me the value of power loop. That's what it should return. Yep. All right. So it's basically now able to take the logics from the controller, the primary controller, as well as the extension, right? But while you define the extension, you have to specify that your extension is going to work with which primary controller. If it is going to work with standard controller, then you need to write apex pages.standard controller. If it's going to work with a particular custom controller, then you'll have to write the name of that particular controller. All right, so that needs to be specified. Okay, so that's how an extension works. Okay. So now let's do one more example for an extension. So now the logic is pretty clear that you can go ahead write logics in an extension as well. Why would we use extension? For standard controller, obviously because I do not have the option of writing custom logics. So any custom logic or any user-defined logic that I want to get into my page has to be brought in with the help of an extension. For a standard controller, do you have the option to change the code? No, right? So you cannot edit the code, and the only option which is available to you is in case you need a custom logic. So if you want to work with a standard controller page and at the same time you want to write a custom logic, you can just go ahead and uh, write an extension class. All right. Now, for the custom controller pages, though we have an option to go and change the custom controller pages, but sometimes it may happen that you have already written a code and the code is already deployed, and now you're not willing to make changes to that code, and you realize that you have to add one more method to the page. Okay, now you just don't want to go back and make changes to the original class controller. Then you can just add the logic through an extension. Okay, so you don't want to disturb the actual code, so let it be as it is and just go ahead and add the logic using your custom controller extension. All right, so create an extension and call that extension on the visual first page. Okay. Now okay, so we're going to do one more example with a controller extension, and we are going to use the controller extension on this. Okay. Yeah, this is a standard controller page, the page which is using a standard controller. And what are we doing here? We basically designed the page which can display details, related contacts, related opportunities, related cases, okay, all in different tabs, right? Now on this page, because I'm using a standard controller, my life is very easy. I just have to call this related list and quickly I could define this entire, I could create this page. Okay, if I had to do this entire thing using a custom controller, I would have required a lot of code, right? For everything I needed to write the code. Now I'm not writing any code. I'm just quickly uh, using the standard controller options to create this much of the page. Okay, so this is created. Now I have got an additional requirement. My requirement is that for okay, along with these related contacts, opportunities, cases, I want to display the list of campaigns. Okay, I need one more tab here that can show me list of campaigns. Okay, I need one more tab where I want to display the list of campaigns. Now, is campaign a related list for account? Is the relationship between account and campaign? Yes or no? So I see yes also in the answer. Campaign is a related list of account. There is a relationship between campaign and account. And we are all in developer session. So I'm assuming that everyone is pretty much aware of the basics. No connection between account and campaigns, right? Okay. Now, because it's using a standard controller page, okay, I'm allowed to bring in the related list. This is using a standard controller, so I have the option to bring in the related list, right? So I've been using this component apex related list to call all these related lists. Can I call campaign with this component? No, I cannot. right? I cannot call campaigns with this component because it's not a related list. It's not associated to the accounts. On top of it, I want to see all the campaigns, not only the related campaigns. Okay. I want a tab which will show me all the campaigns, all the active campaigns. What do? You have two options. Okay. When you have a requirement to bring in custom logic, to bring in these campaigns here in the other tab, you have to call some custom logic, right? You have to write the logic for that. Okay. Now, if you go with a complete custom controller, then what will happen? Then you'll have to write logic for all these things as well. So far, for all these things, I've not written a single line of logic. I'm just using the standard set of logic. Okay. So now if I try to do a complete custom controller, then I'll have to write logic for each and everything, which is basically going to become too much of work for me, which I'm not going to do. So what I'll do, I'll use a controller extension. Whatever has been defined, let it be. Okay, all these logics are being called or through the standard controller. Okay, only the campaign part can be defined through the extension. Okay, so displaying the list of campaigns, that's what my requirement is. Okay, you want to display all the campaigns, or you want to display campaigns with some criteria, whatever it is. You just have to go ahead and um, use that logic in the controller extension, and I'm going to call the controller extension for only displaying the campaigns. So let's go ahead and create an extension class. Okay, I want you guys to quickly look for 2 or 3 fields from the campaign object and suggest me the name. Okay. So this time I am going to create a class extension public class 3. Okay, whatever. So we are basically looking at displaying list of campaigns. So I'll call it equals select name, start date, end date from campaign. Okay, in case you want to write some other criteria, you can do that. Writing the criteria. All right. So I've written the code only for displaying a complete list of campaigns. Okay, there's a method which will return me list of campaigns, the name, start date, end date of all the campaigns. That's what it's going to return. All right. Now, the other thing that I need to do is I need to define a constructor here. All right. What is a constructor? Constructor name is going to be E3. Okay. Now, question for you guys. Here I should write apex pages dot standard controller, or what? What should I write here? Apex pages dot standard controller or what? So we are going to call this extension where? We are going to call it on a standard controller, right? So we have to write fxpages.standard controller. Had it been a custom controller, then I should have written the name of the controller. But here it's obviously being called on fxpages.standard controller. Okay. Now I should be able to call it on that page. Extension name is E3. Extension is E3. I'll create a tab. After the cases tab, I'll create one more tab. Label can be campaigns. Label width can be 200 as usual. And I'll create a page block table here, right? Value where we see text column value, because it's a list of records, so I am using a page block table to display the list. See dot name start date end date. Save this. Okay, this get method name should be camps. Right. Now I have got one more tab here. Alright, this tab will show you list of the campaigns. If you click on this tab, you see all the campaigns, the start date, end date. Alright, so I get to see the list of campaigns here. In case you wanted to put some criteria, you could have put the criteria also here. Alright, so this is coming from the extension. Just all other logic is coming from the standard controller. Correct. So this way you can actually combine the standard and custom logics on the standard pages, and on custom pages also you can extend the functionalities with the use of extension. Alright. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss today. Let me know if